Welcome back to the Be Her Village podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin McGrayus. I'm the founder of Be Her Village, a gift registry for support, not stuff. And I'm a mother of three and a doula for almost 10 years now. And today, I am so excited to be interviewing Jackie and Natalie, the founders of the 9 In, 9 Out Baby and Parent Expo. Our missions of Be Her Village and 9 In, 9 Out are very closely aligned, and you'll see that as our conversation unfolds, that we really want to make sure that parents get the right information and the right resources before they ever welcome their baby into their family so that they can fully enjoy and fully be supported in this beautiful but also very difficult transition into parenthood. Taking care of a newborn is not easy, and we need more than just baby stuff to survive and thrive. And so please enjoy this conversation. What are baby expos getting wrong, and why did you feel the need to create the 9 In, 9 Out baby event?
Yeah, so baby expos are great. It's kind of they're definitely something that are fun for parents to go to. And also, it's just like an exciting event. Who doesn't love to get stuff, right? Like you need strollers, you need car seats, right? But then it seems that you get home and you have all that stuff, and that's great. But then there's a gap where you're home with your baby, but there's more support that you need for yourself. It's kind of like really focused on the baby and not the parents. So we really are trying to go beyond the gear. Yes, there's some gear and stuff that you need, and that's fun. But also there are people that are professionals that can help you as a parent feel like your cup is being filled as you're entering into your new journey of becoming a new person, really. Like as your baby's born, you're also born as a new parent in a new part of your life.
Yeah, our mission statement for the 9 In, 9 Out Parent and Baby Expo is to connect expecting and new parents with the resources, the people they need for a happy and healthy birth and postpartum experience. So, as Natalie said, it's beyond the stroller that helps get you from point A to point B. It's about that happy and healthy experience going into new parenting. And from a personal standpoint, the reason that Natalie and I started the 9 In, 9 Out Parent and Baby Expos is we were working on a different project a couple of years ago. Natalie's the sleep consultant, and I do parental leave consulting. And we were having a cup of coffee, and I think I said to you, "Gosh, I wish I'd known sleep consultants were a thing."
I hear that all the time.
3 years ago, yeah. So I went through several months where I was back at work and had a baby under one who was waking up multiple times a night. And I was concerned that I would say something very unfiltered at work and lose my job because I was not sleeping,
Right.
which is a pretty core component of health and happiness. And so, it's gosh, I wish I'd known about you. And there was this light bulb moment of, we're so tired of hearing that from
Right.
young parents. I wish I'd known about that. I wish
Yeah.
I'd had that help. I
Yeah.
wish someone had told me that breastfeeding was going to be hard. I wish I knew that it's really common to have a mental health challenge
Right.
postpartum. And so we knew that in our community there were great experts doing awesome work, helping support expecting and new parents. But if the expecting and new parents don't know about them at the right time, that's a gap. And
Right.
so that's our goal, is put all the great people in a room together and help them find each other at the right time.
I really want to take a moment to talk about the lack of sleep and the impact it has. You're not kidding when you say I'm scared I was going to lose my job. It's not just an unfiltered thing. It's feeling disorganized. It's not feeling connected to your body, yourself. It's a short fuse. It is just literally just performing at almost the worst. It's just feeling sluggish and slow and deprived and our worst versions of ourselves. And how many of us, especially the people who are engaging with Be Her Village, especially the people listening to this podcast or who are familiar with 9 In, 9 Out, these are people who care about their health. These are people who are trying nutrition and, the correct foods and are really like well versed in self-care. And even for people like that, when you have a baby, to some degree, that goes out the window, and your self-care time gets taken up by, let me keep this sweet little baby that I love so much alive, which is a lot of work, and it's so impactful. And I feel like I want to underline that because it's one thing to hear, oh, you need to be connected with your village. And it's another to hear, like, you're going to feel better if you take
Right.
the time in pregnancy to go find these people that make life with your baby feel better. There's
Right.
this idea of like, we need to be, it's almost like motherhood is hard and we just like it has to be hard. There's this like, sure, motherhood's going to be hard either way, but it doesn't have to feel terrible. And right now, I think for many people who prepare in the traditional ways of engaging only in nursery prep, only in doctor's appointments, and going to a store to make a baby registry, they're left feeling worse than they should. So I appreciate that sort of like candid statement, Natalie, of like, I was afraid I was going to lose my job. Like, I know you're being a little, like over the top of that, but not really, because
Not really.
it's the truth. And I say that as someone like, we just said this morning on our stand-up call, because JD did not get a great night of sleep. And I was like, when I was in my 30s, like I just needed like adrenaline, caffeine, and love. Like I could do anything. And now I'm like, if I don't get a full night of sleep, I'm a monster. It's so
Right.
completely critical.
It's the like compilation of months and months on top of each other. So, like to your point, Caitlin, most of us can manage one night here and there. We recover, but when you have that new baby, it's not just one night.
It's not
Right.
just one
And
night.
it also makes you think too, like, a lot of times what we're kind of realizing with parents too, which is just a broader issue, is like you don't really realize what you're missing or like how much you're going through it until somebody steps in and is like, wait a second, this could be better. And it's like they might not even realize that they're just kind of head down, get like, going through it, surviving. It's kind of like it reminds me of like, one time somebody bought me a really nice, actually it was Jackie bought me a really nice gift certificate to a very nice spa. And I spent the whole day there and I felt amazing. And it was like it took someone else sort of like showing me this resource for me to be like, all right, I'm going to be intentional about actually doing this stuff for myself. So that's kind of like we found that as some feedback at some of our events where people are like, I met this amazing, XYZ doula, sleep consultant, massage therapist, or mental health therapist at the expo. And I wouldn't have even wouldn't have known where to start if I was at home on my computer. So this is kind of like putting it in people's face and being like, this is what is going to get you through.
Yeah.
Yes.
To your point, Caitlin, like parenting is a struggle, but we don't think that people should have to suffer in isolation. It doesn't have to be so bad. And having it be hard shouldn't be a badge of honor.
Oh, no.
Getting the help that you need to feel good and to thrive should be the badge that we're going for.
I love that. And so one of the things that I also noticed, and I think it's important enough because it really is the shift that we're trying to do with Be Her Village, and I know you guys, our work is really so aligned, is this idea that it is 9 in, 9 out, a parent and baby expo.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit? I know what that strikes inside of me, and I could go on and on about it, but I would love for you to explain why it felt important to include the parent in that.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, right? Like the baby industry, baby gear, baby clothes, that's huge. And that, you're already sold on that. Like you're going to want to buy cute onesies and cute blankets.
And so is grandma.
And so is grandma and everyone else. But, the what's not being heavily pushed and pumped out at us in our own culture is what you can do for yourself. I've seen like a little bit of glimmer of like the wellness sort of movement, like, putting yourself first and all that. But like really it hasn't really hit mainstream yet. So we wanted to include that in our expo where, yes, bring your baby because, we have lactation consultants here that bring a scale and you can weigh your baby here and they can kind of like give you some advice real time. But also like, there are stands and people that serve just parents and that's just as important. We also offer like educational sessions. So like there'll be a talk that we had one centered at dads, for dad becoming a dad and how that is its own unique journey. And those are things that you just don't get in your everyday scroll or, marketing blasts that are in your face.
If we're not caring for the parent, the baby is not going to be well cared for.
Right.
So if you take a flight somewhere, the flight attendant tells you put your own mask on first if the oxygen masks drop, right? We hear that in that type of context. And so by having a parent and baby expo, we want the parent to think, yeah, it's important for me to be a big part of this wellness equation. And we were really intentional about using the word parent and not mom. Right. Because as Natalie said, there are a lot of dads out there that want to be involved. There are people who identify as parents, but not moms. There are parents who don't give birth and are just as important in that family equation. And so it's an event, an expo that we want to feel accessible and inclusive for anyone who's growing their family.
I love that. Natalie, you mentioned something that part of why you have this event is because parents are not getting it because they're getting products pushed on them. And
Right.
I think like one of the things that I'm continuing to learn and continuing to deepen my understanding of is the way that that's not a mistake. That's actually that's how the function of a for-profit system is working. Like there's a reason why when people pee on a stick and get that second line or get their plus sign or get their pregnant word show up, their algorithm changes, their ads change, their emails change. I mean, I remember getting formula sent to my house. I don't even know how that happened. I don't know if it was because of like signing up at a store or it was through my doctor's. Like, I'm not really sure, but I know that the formula companies knew I was pregnant and sent me formula, despite me literally never engaging with them. So there is this really huge machine that is designed to profit off of pregnancies and to tell parents that they need all of these products in order to be good parents. And that is sort of the messaging that comes the entire time that they're pregnant. And so part of what excites me about your work and what excites me about connecting people with their village is it is sort of this like taking back of the pregnancy and taking things back into our own hands because we can't necessarily trust that if we follow the standard for everything, if we do what everybody else is doing, we're going to end up with the same results everybody else has. And the results in this country are mothers who are alone, who are struggling, who are not really understanding their paid leave options or not having them. And I definitely want to touch on that, Natalie, because that's such a huge issue. But it's Jackie. Sorry, I just called you Natalie. Natalie in that moment. It's more than just like, oh, the moms have forgotten to think about this and we're going to help them think about it. There is a system in place. And it's really just a system of businesses trying to profit off of this sector of women and pregnant people. And this is sort of a little bit of a pushback. And it's an individual pushback of like, I am going to do better for me. I'm going to do better for my baby by making sure I have what every other mother in the developed world is getting, by the way. Like American mothers have like, see you in 6 weeks, no parental leave, no daycare, no anybody checking in on you. They're just like, good luck with the baby. Whereas every other developed country has people checking in on you that insurance pays for, and you just get handed a script. You get doulas and nurses and midwives coming to your house to check on you, check your bleeding, check the baby, check your mood. This is built in. And I hope that we in our lifetime see a world where that is universal in our country, that every mother, every parent gets that level of support. But until then, we sort of have to take it back into our own hands. And it feels exciting that there's this sort of like alternative option. I like to think of the 9 in 9 out baby parent and baby expos, love that, as sort of an extension of the work that Be Her Village is doing. It's maybe not an
Absolutely.
extension, that might have been the right word, but we're in the same lane of when parents are inundated with Target and Walmart and Pottery Barn Kids and all these like Amazon, all these like, hey, go buy these things. And then they go to a baby event and baby expo, and then they're just meeting those products in real life. It's really selling them something, capturing emails, and exposing them to all of these brands. And what you both have created is this idea of like, you can still, as someone who's like sort of awake to your needs, awake to your deserving of care, that you can actually also engage in that too. You can go to these meetups and these expos and connect with your community of like-minded parents, because let me tell you, the parents that are there are going to be different from the parents you're meeting elsewhere. And you can meet those providers in person, and almost like the way you would go to an expo and like test a stroller, like you can go
Yeah,
and talk to a
That's the
doula,
idea.
go talk
Yeah.
to a lactation consultant, and get a
Right.
feel for the energy, get a feel for the pricing, get a feel for what even they do. Because half the time, and I still like feel like I'm learning this myself, it's hard to even know what is available to us. So what an exciting thing to be able to go and quote unquote shop for that village in person.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think, part of that is maybe not even signing up right away. You go into our expo, and our goal is you get that awareness, you meet the people, as you said, you feel the energy, you feel the vibe.
Maybe
And
follow on Instagram, follow along.
exactly. And then you have your baby who turns out to be a unique human on their own, and you have your unique birth experience. And then you can kind of decide, oh, I met that lactation consultant, and now breastfeeding is hard. I know exactly who to call.
Mhm.
And I also met a great mental health therapist, but you know what? I feel good. I don't necessarily need that this time around. And that's okay. I feel like when I have two kids, and when I had my second, in my head, I thought, I have had a baby, I have delivered a baby, I know exactly how this is going to go.
Hmm.
And that was wrong. Like from the moment she came out, I was like, oh my gosh, you are a different human. And this should not have been surprising because I have a sister, and it turns out that my sister is not an exact replica of me in
Right.
looks, personality, life choices, etc. But for some reason, I thought my kids would be the exact same experience. So, what I needed in two different pregnancies and two different births and two different babies was different. But by being able to draw on that first experience or who I knew, that's helpful. And
Yeah.
And now if I were to have another one, which is not the plan, I would have a whole big dictionary of people to go to, which would be kind of exciting. Not exciting enough to
Have one more.
have one more just
Yeah.
just for that purpose, but
And I was going to piggyback on that too, Jackie. And like the what, so there are expos in our country, right? And so what we're trying to do with ours is sort of jump on that scene, but also like add in this whole other arm, which is more nurturing and actually, kind of forward thinking. Like you said, Caitlin, we don't have that in our country. So we're trying to, have that movement begin. But what I was going to say too is like, you come our expos, one thing that's unique is that we are really, really like intentional about having the local services in every city we come to. So we're going to come to your city, and we are going to bring together people that are actually like on the streets that you know the names of in your town, not like this, something that you've never heard of. Or so it's like that hyper local aspect, I think, and is another like step for people to get that much closer to actually accessing people like this.
I love this. And I want to also just like underline one of my favorite parts of 9 in 9 out and Be Her Village, and this entire idea of creating intention around your support team, which is, I think that before Be Her Village existed, before 9 in 9 out existed, I think that most of the time people engaged with lactation consultants, pelvic floor therapists, doulas, postpartum care, for the most part, and I don't have stats to back this up, this is just a gut thing, when they were already in crisis. I think it was when, I mean, I'm just off of my own doula career for 10 years and also not for nothing, my own experience. Jackie, I had my very first lactation consultant come to my house for my third baby after 3.5 years of successful breastfeeding her big brothers. And that was the first time I needed help. And it was not because I planned, it was because I was in full-blown crisis. And it helped, but it helped also to be a doula and just be like, help to my doula people. And they just
not good.
even helped. But it's not so easy for other parents. And I think part of what I love about all of this is that it's a way of preparing so that you don't get to the level of crisis. Because if you follow the standard of just worrying about your nursery, spending hours researching baby gear, creating registries filled with baby stuff, and completely neglecting your own and your partners and your family as a holistic view of your family, if you're neglecting those needs, you end up in crisis most of the time. And I don't want to like fear monger. It's not every single person is going to, but like if you look at the stats, most parents, if they're following that standard, are struggling with injury, physical, mental, otherwise. There's just a large sort of elephant in the room of the maternal health care crisis in the United States. People talk about maternal mortality, which is scary and awful, but that number climbing is an indicator of the full spectrum of worsening disorders, right? It's not just some moms are passing away and some aren't. It's all of us are struggling, and that one number that's very easy to count is increasing as the whole of us are struggling. And I think what's so exciting is like when you're in crisis, it's how can you go shop? How can you go find the best lactation consultant, which is what you want? You always want the best for you, and you certainly want the best for your baby. How can you figure out out-of-pocket costs or coverage by insurance, or what things cost and who comes to your house and who has a meeting on Monday afternoons? And like, it's so much work. And when you are drowning and trying to take care of a baby and trying to take care of yourself and having a problem, right? You're not in crisis if you're not having a problem. If something is going on, that postpartum time is probably one of the worst times to engage in care. And like, you have to. Some women go without, but some people find us, thank goodness. But what you all are doing is making that just a normal part of your pregnancy. Come and meet the village in person ahead of time. I mean, when you walk through the doors of 9 in 9 out, you get handed, your Be Her Village registry. You get to scan QR codes throughout the event and literally build a baby registry, whether you use it or not. It's a matter of just, here's your list of people. Here's your list. Here's your village. Call on them as you need them. And it's a completely refreshing feeling about how to line up care, because you can have conversations while not in labor. You can have conversations while not in crisis, while not with bleeding nipples, while not completely sleep deprived. And you can sort of have your wits about you and have your sense of self and your head screwed on the right way and shop and curate this village for yourself in a way that feels so good. And in a way that I would suspect, I've never been smart enough to do this for myself through my pregnancies, but in a way that I bet makes parents feel so much more confident walking into their birth and postpartum journey than someone who just has a house full of stuff and a wish and a prayer,
Right.
Hope so.
And and we make it fun too. Like you said, you walk in and we also, give you a swag bag. We've had mocktails at our events, and it's like we want this to be not only like being forward thinking and proactive about your well-being, but let's come and have a great time. Bring your partner,
Bring your mother.
there's fun giveaways, and also like it's fun to learn. Like if there's something that like is of interest of you, which should be, everything related to becoming a parent, you find a really cool, topic that there's a talk on. That's fun. That's a really fun way to spend a weekend afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's beyond just, definitely on the serious note, taking care of yourself, but also what a fun way to kind of have some time for you and your partner, or you and your mom, or just you to kind of have some time for yourself.
So we think learning is fun. If you don't think learning is fun, then perhaps, we're not the place for you. Just if you have like a totally different definition of fun, then, take that into account. Caitlin, I want to touch on something you mentioned with the mental health aspect and being able to access resources before you're in a point of crisis, which I think is something that we really care a lot about, and why we try to bring in providers from all sorts of different service areas across pelvic floor, mental health, lactation, et cetera. So after my second was born, I had some postpartum anxiety, and I had not experienced that after my first was born. So I knew something was off, but I didn't know how to name it. I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know how to ask for help. And I was lucky that when I went to our 2-week pediatric visit, our pediatrician, who I'd been working with for years because we had an older kid, looked at me and said, "You okay?" And then I burst into tears. It was not okay. But because that provider saw me, identified that something was off, she was able to hand me a list of, here are therapists you can call. And with a list of a couple people, I could dial the number. That was something I could do. I couldn't search for it. I couldn't answer all those questions you rattled off, but I could take a piece of paper and I could call a couple numbers. And by getting into therapy and getting help with my anxiety while I was on maternity leave, that made a huge difference when I had to go back to work. It prevented that crisis point that you were just mentioning. It de-escalated my personal situation. And so I think from a personal standpoint, that's something that if we can help even one parent walking through the doors at 9 and 9 out connect with some people that then they know this is the person on my list. If I'm feeling off, if something doesn't seem right, I know who I can call, and they're gonna help give me a gut check. They're gonna help normalize. They're gonna give me a path to feel better, whether that's physically or mentally. Then that's huge. That makes a huge difference in changing that trajectory and hopefully curbing some of the crisis.
So tell me a little bit about where 9 and 9 Out is. How can people find you? Can they invite you to come host one in their community? We definitely have birth workers that listen to this podcast. So I would love for you guys to just let us know how to be in touch with you and how to find the next 9 in, 9 out.
Yeah, so we, for 2025 so far, have 2 cities pretty much locked in. Madison, Wisconsin, which is actually where we are based. So that event will happen in April. And then also Grand Rapids, Michigan. We are going to have an event there toward the end of the year, probably more so fall. So if you are anywhere from a solopreneur, doula, all the way up to you work in a health system in that area, let us know. And, we have sponsorship options, tabling options. You could give a talk. So yeah, and just letting your patients know. And then if you are interested in working with us in 2026 and beyond, we'd love to hear from you, and sort of set a longer runway for planning what it would look like for us to come to your city.
Cool. Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah. And for really anyone who's interested in attending, if you've got folks who are planning on growing their family sometime this year or working with people who plan to grow their family, if you head to our website, we've got a downloadable expo guide that kind of walks through some of the different service areas that you might want to consider. And so that's a guide that you can use if you come to one of our expo events. It's also a guide that might help you as you're looking at your Be Her Village registry, or if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of providers on Be Her Village, can help kind of give you an orientation to what you might want to be on the lookout for.
I love that. That's wonderful. And how about being in touch with you? What's your website? What's your social media contact? How do people who have just listened to this thinking to themselves, oh my goodness, I love what these women are building. how do they get in contact with you?
Sure. So we have a couple different channels. We're on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, and that's at with the number nine in underscore number nine out. So at 9in9out handle. And then we have a website, and that's 9in9out.com, also the number. And then on that website, you'll also be able to submit a form if you want to get in contact with us personally in email. That would be also an option.
Yeah, that gets you on our list so that when we have new cities coming up and we're sending out save the dates and info about tickets, then you're on that list.
Our mission is just to promote wellness. So, be well, center your wellness. And if you are struggling, be able to reach out to a community of people. There are people out there, and that's kind of our mission is to make you aware of that.
And I think, Caitlin, to you and the Be Her Village team and to all the birth workers listening, thank you for the work you're doing. It's really important. You're making a huge difference in how well our communities run by helping new parents and babies and families. So thank you, and please keep up the good work going into 2025.
Thank you so much for listening to this amazing conversation. I have so much respect for what these two women are trying to accomplish. And it really, as you could hear, it's so aligned with what Be Her Village is trying to accomplish in the baby registry space. They are trying to accomplish it in the baby expo space, because at the end of the day, what we have is a bunch of pregnant people being told through their advertising, through baby expos, through their gift registry, through all the stores, through all of the channels that reach them, that they need things and stuff and baby products in order to survive parenting, in order to be a good parent, in order to thrive. And the truth could not be further from that. Products are great, products are helpful, but what we actually really need is a village of support. And the earlier we connect into that, and the earlier we tap into that resource, the better for all of us, especially our babies. So thank you so much for listening. Look in the show notes. You can find all the links for Be Her Village, all the links to be in touch with Jackie and Natalie, and find a 9in9out near you. Until next time, bye.